What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Once upon a time, Vladimir Putin promised his soldiers they would return from Ukraine as heroes. Marching bands, parade on the Red Square, cash showers, and a shiny medal or two. Maybe even a quick mention in a patriotic documentary that will be shown the new year on the channel number 1. Fast forward to reality, they come back limping, broke, divorced, and robbed by the very same state that sent them into the meat grinder. No medals, no bands, just debt, betrayal, and an apartment they will never be able to afford. And if that is not insulting enough, the very men who robbed them for their war pay, well, they're now in uniform too, because signing up to die is the best way to dodge prosecution in Putin's Russia. This is the new elite, folks, by the way. Not billionaires, oligarchs or tech giants, not scientists or artists, by no means. Just war-worn, penniless conscripts stuffed into cheap body bags or hiding shrapnel next to their hearts. At least this is what the Kremlin describes as the new Russia's elite. And while they try to recover in half-collapsed hospitals with moldy ceilings, Trump's counting down the days until Moscow either surrenders or watches its last few trade deals go up in tariffs. You already heard about Trump reducing the timeline for Putin to cease the hostilities from 50 to 10 days. And you probably heard about the Kremlin's response, which was, we noted it, duly noted. But as of recently, the US actually made it crystal clear to Russia that the games are over, and that they simply misinterpreted the ultimatum of Trump. So today, let's dive deep into the twisted loop of corruption, humiliation and foreign pressure. Guys, we got lots to cover. Let's talk about Nikita Khursa. 39, welder, husband, recruit, wounded vet, and, drumroll, victim. Not physical but financial. He went off to Ukraine not for ideology, not for honor, but for cold hard rubles, which in Putin's economy is probably the most honest motive you can ever find. With promises of bonuses that rival a Moscow executive's yearly salary, who could just blame him? Up to 5 million rubles right away just for signing, another few millions for injuries. It is the closest thing to winning the Russian lottery, Russian style. Except this lottery ends in a hospital or a wooden box 6 feet deep. Nikita made it back alive, miraculously. Shrapnel in the chest, however, but sure he is still breathing at least. That alone should qualify him for the Kremlin's sainthood. And what did he want to do with the war money? Simple as that, buy an apartment, settle down, do something normal. Unfortunately, normal is extinct in Putin's Russia. One drunken fight with his wife, one stupid night, one bag full of money and boom, his savings were gone. Confiscated, to be specific, by traffic police, who saw a vulnerable man with tears in his eyes, behaving erratically, and with just too much cash and very few connections. One officer tried to intervene. They said, let's not do this, guys. He just came back from the war, he's kinda hero. But his partner saw the stack of cash and replied like a true patriot, shut up! Do you know how much money is this? 2.5 million rubles to be specific, stolen on the spot. That's what the new Russian hero gets. Not thank you, not a safe return, just a robbery in official uniform. The cops did not even try to deny it. They acknowledged it happened, said that they were sorry and then simply signed up for the army themselves. Which under a new law, well, apparently raises your crimes completely. That's right. Robbery, abuse of power, no problem. Just grab a rifle and die for the motherland. What if you have connections? Well, then you might not even end up on the front lines. But your background check will become squeaky clean, crystal clear, moving forward and no questions asked. So good to be rich and powerful in Russia, right? Justice system, never heard of it. Nikita Khursa's case was just one single example, but believe me, there are more, way more, thousands more. Let's talk about returning Russian vets being robbed as a phenomena in Putin's Russia in our next chapter. Now let's not pretend this was an isolated incident, oh no. This is a well-oiled, state-approved robbery machine. The kind where scammers, officials and military commanders don't just take bribes, they take entire bank accounts. And the victims? Men who thought they would earn their way out of poverty by surviving a war. In Moscow, airport police tipped off taxi drivers about incoming soldiers. They would get in a car thinking they're going home only to be overcharged 15 times. The policeman gets the cut, obviously, and just rinse and repeat. If you decline to pay, you get dragged, beaten, and strong-armed into unlocking your bank app, and then just maybe not even paying 15 times, but paying it all. Congratulations, soldier, you fought Nazis for your country, and now you're depositing your last paycheck to a thug in Lada. Investigators estimate that the criminal group took at least 1.5 million rubles through this scheme alone, and this is just what they could prove. The rest, swept under the rug and just quietly ignored. Why? Because a part of this inadequately increased taxi fare, as you guessed it, goes as a bribe to corresponding officials and right people. But wait, it does get still worse. Some servicemen did not even get a chance to see their money before it disappeared. In Vladimir region, recruitment officers stole over 11 million rubles straight from soldiers' salary accounts. How? Well, they just kept the SIM cards tied to their bank account, simple as that. Brilliantly evil. These were not pickpockets, these were state employees with full access to all the personal information and zero fear of consequences. And soldiers cannot prove anything, because there was no signs of hacking or computer glitches. The code arrived to their phone numbers, was promptly entered, and bank information retrieved. Simple as that. The guy just used the SIM card and their own phone. That's how it goes. Same goes then for withdrawal requests. The recruitment officers claim it was a soldier himself who withdrew the money and then tried to sue to get even more money from the state. Was an ungrateful person. And you can obviously only imagine whose side the court is going to take. And that's right, the same court who took a part of these 11 million rubles as a thank you for being on the recruiter's side. Meanwhile, in Belgrade now, a local official just straight linked multiple records bank accounts to his own phone number. Absolute disregard for law and consequences, like he's thinking about sweeping his footprints forever, forget about it. This guy was not even a tech genius, just a guy who knew the system was too broken to care, and it didn't. Then there are the commanders. One sergeant major allegedly collected 50 bank cards from his unit, many of whom are now missing in action. Were they purposefully sent it to one of the meat assaults? I think we all know the answers. The commander then vanished with the money. Some cards had up to 2 million rubles on them, so you can imagine how much money he stole. And then here's the punchline. None of these cases resulted in proper trials. I mean, why bother? In Putin's Russia, theft is not a crime. It is a career path. And if you get too careless, you can always just bribe people. Or worst case scenario, sign up for military yourself and erase your criminal history, and you don't even need to go to the trenches because you stole so much money, so once again you can bribe people. It looks like the regime found a way to profit from war in the worst, most inhumane way possible, by literally discarding people and treating them like they're not even living creatures. Let's talk about it in our next chapter. By now the Russian soldier is not a warrior, he's a disposable asset. An expendable pawn promised the world and then given nothing. Nikita, our unlucky welder from first chapter, is a prime example. He tried to report the theft. The robbers joined the army and now case closed. He tried to recover with dignity. Instead, he's now lying in hospital waiting for a military doctor to decide whether the shrapnel in his chest is serious enough to keep him out of combat. Spoiler alert for Nikita, it's probably not. The guy asks way too many questions. He better be never kept out of the combat, right? Contract soldiers do not retire in Russia. They do not get honorably discharged. They serve until the war ends, either for them or just in general. Which in Putin's language means never. The only ticket out is just a coffin. That's a reality Nikita faces. So he made a grim decision. Split with his wife. I mean, why ruin her life too, right? If I'm not here in the trenches, I will end up on the streets, he says. Only the army saves me, puts a roof over my head. This is what military service has become. Not a career, not a duty, not even a scam anymore. It's the only form of state welfare left. You bleed for the flag because no other institution will ever give you shelter. Putin's Russia does not care if you die, but it cares very much about making sure you do it quietly, cheaply, and preferably before your even first paycheck arrives. And then, as these men fall through the cracks, the government keeps pumping out flashy posters promising a different future. They show smiling soldiers hugging their wives, holding babies, and building houses. Never mind that most of them will return to a country that robs them blind and pretends it ever knew even their own name. How hard is it to even erase a person from the existence, anyways, at least on paper? Let's now, guys, briefly switch our attention to the US once again. Because while Russian soldiers are being shaken down like tourists in a rigged casino, Donald Trump is busy counting the days until Putin either finds a white flag or finds himself cut off from what's left of the global market. 10 days. That's what Trump gave him. Not 50, not 30. 10. Why? Because even Trump, Mr. Let's make a deal, got tired of Putin's two-faced phone calls. 1 minute they're chatting about peace, and the very next minute Kyiv is in flames. After 3 or 4 rounds of that, even the master of artful deception realized he is being played. So now, well, the gloves are obviously off. From a golf resort in Scotland to Air Force One, Trump declared that if Putin does not start making progress towards a ceasefire by August 8th, sanctions will hit harder than ever. Not just regular sanctions, secondary ones, the kind that punish every country still doing business with Moscow. Oil deals gone, trade routes frozen, currency swaps dead. And if you think this is just posturing, well, the State Department's own spokesperson made it crystal clear. The time for misinterpretation is over. Trump has been patient, maybe too patient, but now even his inner circle admits it was a mistake. Putin thought the old deadlines were flexible, well, now he just had a hard stop. The implications are massive. Russia's economy is already held together with duct tape and shadow accounting. If sanctions tighten further, even China might now think twice before continuing its backdoor deals. And if Russian elites cannot buy French wine or Greek islands anymore, well, let's just say Putin's inner circle may find themselves thinking, finally, about the regime change for the very first time in 2 decades. What's worse is that this looming storm is happening while Russia is cannibalizing its own military. Everything we spoke about in the previous chapters. Stealing from its own soldiers, bleeding its own people for a war nobody understands and nobody can win. So as Trump sets his deadline, the Kremlin faces 2 options. Agree to a ceasefire or pretend everything is fine while watching the last pillars of its economy crumble like cheap Soviet concrete. The choice is yours. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. The best way to support our work and to keep us independent is to Patreon subscriptions. The link is down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in ridiculous Russian propaganda.